well, just for the meeting notes, Robert or John, do you have time to take meeting notes?
I'll give it a shot.
Okay, nice. Thanks. So, well, the kind of main thing we need to discuss today is the finding shepherds for RFC 140. So we opened that. I'm going to screen share here. Let's see right here. So we opened that RFC together like in January already, and now it's been over a month, and we don't have any shepherd nominations. We discussed this last time. We thought that, so like I'm the kind of main author of the RFC, but in the RFC itself, we also have that co-authors are the entire Nixpkgs architecture team. And according to the RFC process, which we learned this since last week, you can't nominate authors as shepherds. And so we thought, Robert could become a shepherd, but apparently not allowed. And so now we have a bit of a problem because the team consists of 5 people from the community that have an interest in solving this, and exactly those people would be good as shepherds, but if we really strictly follow the RFC process, we can't be shepherds. And we haven't found any other people that nominate themselves as shepherds. And
I guess co-authors could still attend the meeting as co-authors, so it's...
Yeah. So
we need more shepherds, but
presence...
Robert can still go to the meeting and participate in basically the same way.
Yeah, and I mean, in the meetings, it's usually also common that the author participates, right, and the co-authors as well if they want to. But right, the actual shepherd team, the 3 to 4 people team that makes the kind of call for FCP and kind of gives feedback for the RFC. Officially, that is still needed. We could, so there's kind of 2 options. Well, 2. One of them is we don't list the entire team as an author, so that's the kind of sketchy version. We only list Robert as the co-author. He made most of the so I'm kind of the main author, but Robert also did a large part of it. And then all the other members could still become shepherds, and we would have even 3 members from the team. I wouldn't want 3 members of just the entire team being shepherds, but at least like 2 or 1 or 2 could still become shepherds. But that's a bit sketchy. I don't really like that option because we all worked on this RFC together and are already in like, we agree on that it looks good. So that kind of defeats the RFC process of getting someone else to look at it and so on. And so the other option, well, we could also extend this with talking to the steering committee and just being like, hey, can we make an exception for this one? We are co-authors, but let us at least like have 1 person as shepherd, or maybe 2. But yeah, it's kind of the same thing. So the alternative is to just find shepherds from the community. And considering that we have like 2 people that, at least 2 people here, just not in the team, but joining and being interested in this, maybe you'd be interested. And so, yeah, I mean, so I could just briefly talk about what this RFC is about, and we could look through it. And then you can get a brief sense of it, especially since you're joining after a while, JK, and Freya, you're also interested, and others maybe too. And yeah, so does it sound good? Any objections? I can quickly go through the RFC.
It sounds good.
Yeah, it'd be great to learn some more. Yeah, this is like an issue that I'm interested in solving, whether or not this will be the best approach. it'd be great to be ran through it again. Thanks.
Sounds good. Yeah. So, well, summary. So summary, the main kind of thing it does. So instead of having this all packages.nix file, well, the file still exists after this RFC, but a large part of it was removed from it. Instead, you generate the attributes from a directory kind of automatically. And so the structure matches the attribute name. Makes it much easier to contribute new packages and to update existing packages. There's no more guessing as to where the package should go, both in the directory categories. So those will get removed to the most part, and in all packages.nix. This is just the most painful thing for people to figure out how to add a new package right now. We have some motivation. There's various reasons why we want to do this. Again, it's hard to contribute. And then detailed design. So this is the main part of it. So we established the standard of a package unit directory, and the unit directory contains a nested shard directory and then a name. So the shard is comprised of the first two characters of the name of the package. So hello would go in the HE shard. So this is done to kind of break down the structure a bit more, because a flat directory structure would have kind of poor performance and also GitHub file navigation implications, because we have like 20,000 or 10,000 packages that go in there. So kind of similar how Git also internally breaks down the objects into like 2-level prefixes. And so once you declare this directory, you automatically get the packages.name attribute added. You don't need to edit any all packages.nix file. You don't need to add it to any directory structure somewhere else. And this is, you can create this automatically. That there's no like decision process needed for that. Yeah, and then all of these directories are auto-called. So currently the file is package fun, but we had some feedback in the RFC that just package.nix would be better. And so that's the only file you will need. So package.nix in that unit directory, and this will get auto-called with empty attribute set. So it's the same as this definition here. Right, and then that's kind of the base of it. And then we have some extra things that get checked by CI for various reasons. So for example, we have a CI check for the structure so that people, that the directory is actually correct, that the shard, that the prefix is correct, that the package fun or the package.nix file exists in those directories. We have that we only want derivations, at least for now. So currently we restrict the RFC to a kind of subset of the entire attribute sets. So we have things like fetch from GitHub, which aren't really packages, and maybe we want those to live in a different place at some point, or build Rust trade and all of these other builders. So currently there's a check that we want to have that enforces we actually have packages. This also makes it kind of nice because you can build these attributes directly, so you can always know, oh, if there's a package unit HE hello, you can actually run nix-build-a hello, and it will work. And it won't give an error that, oh, you're not building you're trying to build a function or something like that. And then we have this one, which is a bit weird if you look at it at first. Also a CI check that is about kind of enforcing the API around packages. And so we kind of want to decide what is a stable API in Nix packages, or what should people depend on within Nix packages. And so traditionally, you could just reference files from other packages. And we've seen this a couple times where, for example, some random package references a bash setup hook from somewhere, and just by like going // packages shells bash, and then it references it like that. And that's just kind of messy. It makes it hard to, let me go up here. It makes it hard to move these files around. So once that happens, you can't move bash around without breaking evaluation. And then, yeah, pretty much that. And so what we want to enforce here is that the unit directories are kind of self-isolated. So nothing can depend on the files inside the unit directory, and the unit directories can't reference anything outside of themselves. And by enforcing this, we can move them around as needed. We can change the name. They could even be moved to a repository at some point. We can ensure that people don't do any of these weird API violation things. Yeah, and so how to check this? It's not a complete check, but this is implemented already. So there's tooling for this RFC. It's not done yet, but we actually have a work meeting with someone else that's interested in developing it. It's written in Rust based on RNX. And it can check this condition. So it can check that files in Nix aren't referenced from somewhere else. Right, and then we have custom arguments. So we have this kind of special case where, well, these unit directories are called with an empty argument. We can see this up here. So it's called with an empty argument here on call package. So this means you can't have any custom overrides of these arguments. But in the current way how Nixpkgs works, you often do need that. And so we have this exception for the above rule here that says you can still use all packages.nix if you kind of just copy the same definition. So like you have a call package, then you call the unit directory here, but you can replace args and set something custom here. So this is just that when people need this customization, they don't need to remove their package from the unit directory structure. They can just customize it here while keeping the same directory name. This is meant to be temporary though. Once we can find a better solution for like argument calling and call package and all of that. Right, and then here's a simple example. So we can see here we have package overkill. It lives in the underscore O prefix. We also see we lowercase all of the shards here. So even though we have 3 different packages starting with 3 different capitalizations, we lowercase all of them. Then also slight special case, if an attribute name is smaller than 2 characters, we just use the single character. Yes. And that's, yeah, I mean, there's more things down here, but that's pretty much the RFC. Yeah, do we have any immediate like comments, feedback, questions?
I guess with the single name packages being in their own separate directory, we'll have up to 26 of those. I guess there'll also be a bit of a confusion if there's, say, a package that's just a number. So if it was called just like 0, then it wouldn't be in its own folder. It would be in, well, I guess technically it's 2 letters, right? Underscore and then 0.
Yeah, I think that's like there's only, as far as I know, 4 packages with a single letter name, no numbers so far. So it's like an edge case. It's just mentioned here for completeness, but it's not something we need to worry about. It's I think. Yeah. Yeah, and then, right, the rest of the RFC is other sections, interactions, drawbacks, alternatives. We evaluated a lot of different things while working on this. Like, also, should we use like different shards. Should we use 3 prefix or 4 prefix names? And 2 prefix ones work out the best, just for like directory size and so on. This we needs to be updated. Now we had a meeting earlier, recent weeks, where we decided package.nix would be better. We got some feedback about this in the RFC comments. There's nothing very controversial in the RFC comments, so nobody said like this is a terrible idea. We have like there's only positive emojis as well, so that's a good sign about an RFC. And so yeah, would anybody like? Are you interested right now in shepherding this? And it would be really like that's currently the blocking thing about this RFC. So it would be very worthwhile, and we wouldn't have to go through this Nixpkgs architecture team members as shepherds thing, which would be nice.
Yeah, I'd say I'm open to it. I guess my question would be, as the shepherd, would you just be dealing with the document that is the RFC, and like where does the kind of actual doing of the work, the implementation part, fit into this?
Yeah, so the implementation, so RFCs are really just a proposal. They don't need to come with an implementation. But if you do have an implementation, that's of course better because it makes it easier to like know what is possible and so on. But the shepherd team only needs to decide over should the RFC get accepted or not, and kind of accepting the community feedback and making sure all is taken into account and so on.
Okay, and let's say that the shepherds want they like the RFC, but maybe there's some concerns about performance, just like seeing how this actually performs. Could the RFC be like accepted and put forward on the condition that performance isn't awful, or that kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean, so we already evaluated performance in some ways.
Cool.
And there's even, so didn't mention this yet, there is a kind of test PR where this is implemented. Well, not to the full extent, but kind of the base of it. You can see it changes a lot of things. I think it changes like 12,000 files by moving a lot of them around. But I already evaluated performance here, and it's probably even in the in here, and it doesn't, like, at least the evaluation performance is like, well, you can never really trust these numbers that much, but
Yeah, they fluctuate a bit.
I mean, these ones you can trust, and they do go up a little bit, but it's not significantly. Well, there's this one, but yeah, there's also the Git performance. We haven't done an evaluation of that, but it's not like noticeably worse in any way. So yeah, but yeah, the shepherding team can decide. Yeah, we accept the RFC if it takes that into account, or it needs these changes, and only then we can accept it. Yeah. Heap size is noisy lately. Was this heap size that was so odd?
Yeah, I think that was the 1.42.
Yeah. Oh yeah, okay. Then that might not be something to worry about either.
Yeah.
So yeah, and in the shepherd team, it's not required by the RFC process, but generally have meetings. Like I like to have a meeting every 2 weeks where you can discuss the progress and update the RFC with some meeting notes. And there's going to be a shepherd leader that kind of just leads the shepherding team, makes meetings and so on. Yes. So in any case, like if you're interested, feel free to nominate yourself as a shepherd by just making a comment in the RFC. And then once the steering committee has the next meeting, they can, and there's enough shepherds, they can decide on a shepherd team.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'll nominate myself. Probably just a standard shepherd rather than leader. I've only been shepherd on one other RFC. I feel like I'm mostly just observing on that one too. So I'm not super 100% sure of everything required for shepherd, certainly the leader. So yeah.
Well, shepherd lead is more of a like administrative lead, just like making the meetings in my experience. So it's not like they have any more power over it or anything like that. But yeah, you can indicate that in your nomination as well.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Thanks a lot. So I hope that others in this call here might also be interested. Like this is kind of the thing we worked on for some time and considered like focusing on this. But since the RFC has been opened, we kind of set ourselves that we would adhere to the RFC process. And so, yeah, we're kind of blocked on this by now. And we do not feel confident in just like making this change without an RFC, at least for now. Maybe in the future at some point.
Thanks for the recap and for doing this. I will also nominate myself.
No problem. Okay, so yeah, and that's really the well, let me go to the meeting notes. So that's really the main thing for today. There is two other things. So we have started a document to kind of write down the problem we're trying to solve with the modules for packages. And let me open this. This should be in the last week's meeting notes.
So this is to change / avoid doing like overrides and stuff as we do currently.
Yes, that is right. We have written it down here a bit. So like problems, too many override functions. We have all these different ways. I was surprised we actually had this many different ways to kind of override and overlay things. No type safety. We have no checking for like invalid names. The options are poorly discoverable, and velocity ordering issues, unsafe merging, poor debugging, inconsistencies between Nixos and yes. And actually, maybe directly into the meeting notes.
Just with the ordering, I feel like I've seen a couple like module, Nixos module type things that also have ordering issues. Like I know PAM is the famous one, where it's just one kind of blob of stuff.
Yeah, it's also somewhat of a problem in Nixos. And see, I'm not actually right. At least so, like this problem here that is described, thing about like overlays being ordered in different. Oh no, honestly, that can also happen with not in that exact way, but we're currently kind of working on this. Actually, I would like to continue working on this after this call. So the main thing here is like creating this working group, and partially this is just kind of actually writing down what we want to fix, and write down the solution. The solution we want to investigate is to use something like the module system, because the module system works pretty well. We also have things like this was mentioned down here. So we have DRV parts. We have Dream to Nix, which also same author and effort. Also try. I think it uses DRV parts or something.
Not yet. DRV parts came later. But David, he does plan to use it in Dream2Nix.
There's a draft of using DOV parts in Dream2Nix, but the first draft has only been merged this morning into Dream2Nix.
Nice, nice. So there's that effort. There's a Floco effort by Alex, who isn't here today, but he also wrote some like kind of, I think he used the Nixos module system as well for some interface. David also, he was there in last week's meeting. I think he already agreed to be like part of this working group. Also, if we have enough people here that are interested in working on this, we might not even need to like find more members, but we do want to still kind of put this somewhere. The idea was on this course, just to say we want to work on this, and then we would also be creating a repository. So the RFC 140 was developed in a repository and using like issues and peers and so on. This worked pretty well. It's now archived because we don't want duplicate feedback in the RFC in here. But we would also do this for this working group. We'd like set up meetings. I also want to be part of this working group. So set up meetings, set up a GitHub repository, give everyone access, then work on this using PRs and kind of refine the RFC and do checks and evaluations and see what works. Yeah, then well, I think this document has been half kind of an idea boiler, is that a word? Just kind of writing things down, and on the other half, like a discourse working group announcement. And yeah, well, also if you're interested in this, feel free to, or if you have questions as well or ideas or comments, feel free to say them now.
Yeah, I'm interested in this as well. Overriding stuff can be a nightmare. I guess slightly related is the like recursive, using values from the attribute set versus this new final attrs. I don't know if that kind of fits into this module
Yeah, that
override
fits in,
type
yeah.
thing, yeah. And one other thing that comes to mind just discussing all this is I know previously some have like mentioned or put forward like a more modular way of defining packages, where you could have like a matrix of like sources and then conditions based on like if it's this range of versions, we need to do this pre-configure thing but not for others. And
Oh,
yeah, I don't know if that would also be related to this piece of work.
I think it goes into that. So there's like a lot of issues that are kind of related. Also, the like make derivation, using make derivation has a lot of problems, and we could fix a lot of these problems easily when we have the module system and kind of make it work, make the change at the same time as well. For now, I think the main so the version issue, I think that's might be a bit more distant, but like I'm not sure what exactly will develop into here. And I mean, honestly, DRV parts probably goes in that direction, and we could also, I mean, David will also want to participate and just kind of it's about the idea. Like let's try to see what works. Let's work on this together, try different things out, find if that's even feasible. There's also the performance implications, which are here much more drastic because the module system is kind of slow compared to just kind of raw Nix overriding. again, so it's really, is it doable? To what extent? How can we make the simplest possible improvement in that area, like using modules? Yeah.
I think
And so, yeah.
I think one possible angle is to see what we can do to make Nix packages better support the things that David needs to do.
What is it? A.Nix?
David, Davao. Because ideally, Nix packages is flexible enough that it can be used in the way that it currently exists, and also make it suitable for other configuration systems, so to speak, to make use of it. So they maybe figure out what David's challenges were, and then find solutions for those, and try to get better separation of concerns into the code that constitutes make derivation.
Yeah, that also sounds like an idea. Yeah. Right, and so this RC 140 already took so maybe just a bit more context. So at NextCon, we kind of sat together, the entire team, and we're like, well, we haven't really done anything until now, and the team already existed for like 2 months or so. And Valentin was also there, and he kind of said, you just need to focus on a single thing. And so we did that now. We focused on this RC. Also took a bit longer than I'd like. Like we all have other things to do as well, so we don't always have time to work on that. But now, but yeah, we kind of decided on this because it was the smallest, kind of the simplest, a very simple improvement compared to the other things that we would have liked to do. Like other ideas were replacing bash as a builder in make derivation, changing make derivation entirely, and right then this module thing as well. And so I think it's here also very important to try to make the smallest possible step in the right direction and not go like overboard. So instead of rewriting make derivation as part of this using some module system, let's reuse make derivation to the largest extent possible while still using the module system in some way. That's what David also did with DRV parts. Yeah. Okay, but so I do want to work on this draft a bit more. And I want to, well, here, and I want to ideally publish this on this course today. I'm going to do this after this meeting. Those who want to participate, feel free to. Main goal is to just kind of write this document. And I'll also later, so that's the other kind of agenda point in, well, the notes section I wrote about the working group for RFC 140 tooling. So that's kind of a different thing as well. So the tooling Nix SPP, currently called SPP for Simple Package Paths. It's the name of the RFC. Written in Rust, needs some work still. It's a bit messy, to be honest. It's kind of a messy thing to do in general. But yeah, I need to continue working on this and would like some help. And we found Vanya. He's interested in contributing, and so we have a meeting later today. It's at 7 p.m. CET. Let me. Yeah, I see in the meeting notes. It's written down as well. So 7 p.m. CET today.
Well, I just mean that based on what you said.
Yeah, it is 7 p.m. CET. I checked in my calendar. It is that time. And so if you wanna help out a bit, see some Rust, or if you know some Rust, feel free to join. I would like some help. Yeah. Okay,
And
so other...
the things that need working on, or the things that will come up in that meeting, are they in the README or in like the issues section?
Yeah, partially the README. Yeah, I'm not sure if how up to date the README is. You can see here, I don't have a lot of time myself to to work on this, but I'm gonna try and yeah, that's the general idea is something like that in the README. And ideally, we could also do some work splitting. So if you have time throughout the week, that you could maybe, if you want to contribute, make a PR and or refactor the code. To be honest, I'm happy with just like removing some like ugly clones or something like that in Rust, or actually implement more parts of it. Yeah. Okay, and other than that, I do not have anything else to talk about. It was kind of a very monologue-y discussion today, but if there's something else, I guess now's the time to bring it up.
Yeah, I
Go ahead.
I actually created a little agenda header yesterday night. I think you didn't notice it. So one more thing we discussed last time was splitting responsibilities, where working groups will be responsible for executing on projects, and the Monday meeting and sort of what we call a team is responsible for monitoring those and doing some decision making, including perhaps some Nixpkgs, PRs, issues, things that come up that cannot really easily be resolved by individuals. So
Yeah.
that's like the bottom part, and I should have reordered those. And then there's an example that I think is relevant is a PR that I wrote. I'm not really aware of other PRs or issues at this time, but I figured we could take a look at this.
Yeah, that sounds good. I saw the RC. I don't think I commented on it yet. The RC, the PR. Just a quick comment. To some degree, I wonder how much of a distraction I guess it is, because this feels like kind of workaround. Like make derivation just kind of sucks in various ways, and this is a way to improve it slightly. But in the end, it's still a make derivation that we kind of need to support for all eternity in its kind of broken state.
Right.
But I guess there's not like if you made this improvement and it works, then I guess there's no, and it doesn't have any significant downsides, then I guess it's not a problem. Can you maybe go through it briefly and show us what it's about?
Right.
You can also screen share if you want.
I can just summarize it. So as you may be aware, the current behavior of make derivation is that it accepts a ton of arguments and then uses those to produce a derivation, of course. But it also returns all of those arguments as attributes on the package that it returns, right? Because every derivation is returned as an attribute set with the outputs and meta and those kind of things. But that also includes stuff like build inputs or whatever crazy variables you set as inputs to your builder. This is not great because it creates some confusion around which attributes are supposed to be used by other expressions and which ones are supposed to be just accidental implementation details. And so the goal of this PR is to at least make it possible for package authors to make a clear distinction between the two. It removes the unnecessary attributes from the returned attribute set, so that all the attributes that remain are there for a reason. This helps with reducing the number of attributes. I think I've summarized the benefits somewhere down below.
Is it
at some point?
not this one?
Let me check it real quick. I really suck
Or
at this.
in the... I mean, you can also screen share yourself. I think that makes it easier.
Right. I've summarized it in the changelog. So it reduces confusion for package users and allows for confident use of non-standard attributes provided by a package. It also gives package authors more confidence in modifying their builder environment without breaking consumers of their package. And it is slightly more efficient. By having fewer attributes, there's just less stuff to keep in memory. Not a whole lot less, but it does help.
All right. Where is it? Clean address. So here, yeah. I guess, well, some disadvantage that just comes to mind is the fact that nowadays, when you use a derivation, you can expect that all of these attributes are there. So you can like use hello dot build inputs, for example, to get hello's build inputs. But now with this, it doesn't just right. It influences third-party users in that they can't expect this anymore. They kind of need to know does it use clean attrs or not. I guess this, to some degree, this is a good thing because then people know, oh, I'm depending on this kind of internal thing, but it also can break code.
Yeah. That's a concern that has been raised by others as well. I think it would be safe to use on new packages, and also I think that these assumptions are going to have to go away anyway. With RFC92, for example, we don't know these values, so we can't return it in a static manner. We don't want to do IFD just to expose build inputs. Right?
What's the interaction between this and override attrs? Because override attrs would have to remember all the attributes, right? Or it wouldn't.
Yeah, correct.
Work.
Yes, and that's the reason why the memory saving is quite small. It's really just that single attribute set that gets a bit smaller. Because as you say, they do have to exist somewhere in memory, and they do. And override adders stick around in the same place as well. It's not touched by this PR. That would be too invasive.
Is it possible, just out of curiosity, to use override attrs to disable clean attrs?
Yes, and it's even easier than that. There's an attribute called internal. So if you want to access internals, you're free to do it. Just as before, I don't make troubleshooting harder than it needs to be, because that's something we do a lot, right? You go into the repo, you look at some package, right? You want to see what's in there. You don't want to jump through many hoops to read those things.
And actually, I mean, it's going to make debugging a bit easier, because a lot of the time you look at a package and it has a million attributes and you don't care about most of them. So being able to just see the public ones is also going to be helpful for debugging.
I quite like it. I think the number of attributes is like it's less than a half, maybe like a third or even less in most cases. So you see the outputs, the meta, the name, the version, but not a whole lot besides that.
I think this will interact quite nicely with the other stuff. Now, if you have eval modules, then or if you have module-based packages, there's like you do eval modules, and it should be a point of no return. Versus now you can always override adders, and then that will make us sort of more disciplined about building packages versus using packages. Not building them in that like run next build sense, but like building up the attribute sets, the arguments, and then once we do that, we'll get much better memory savings. So this is basically the first small step in a long journey of like many good things.
Yeah, that's how I see it as well. Because this is not a complete cleanup. Like we still have override adders. That's always there. Internals is always there.
Maybe something can you still access? I know there's. You probably mentioned it somewhere, but the DRV atters, can you still access the internal ones through that?
Yeah. So internals is equal to the old DRV adders.
Oh, right. Although
we could perhaps at some point change that, but because they're internal, right? We're more allowed to afford those treatments at that point.
But does it so DRV address doesn't work then anymore, right?
Well, it doesn't exist on all of the packages anymore. That's correct.
Yeah, Adam?
Sorry, I was having trouble with my mute. John, what you mentioned about override adders not working on packages which are created as modules, did I understand that correctly?
Well, it'll presumably be a little different. Right, the first version of that will use make derivation, so I guess you get override adders, but it won't, allow you to undo the modules part. You'll get the result of the modules.
Right, but then you'll be able to further make override adders will work the same as it always would on the final package. You just won't be able to mess around with the merge process. Okay, thanks.
Right, but I kind of hope that we'll gut and split up make derivation, and the new stuff will use less and less of it. And so I kind of hope override adders will go away on that.
Absolutely, but there I think there's always going to be a few edge cases that can't be expressed with the module system. So it's a little alarming to hear about override adders going away. I depend quite a bit on that to modify packages. It
could be extend modules. Extend modules is a method that you can use in the module system to basically create a copy with some extra modules included in it. So that would also give you the opportunity to override things.
Okay, I need the ability to do things that cannot be expressed by the module merge function. Like, for example, taking the Nixpkgs attribute and removing something that's very specific, or something that satisfies a predicate, removing it from the list.
Yeah, that's something you could do with extend modules. You have to make sure that the priority assigned to the new value of your Cflags is higher or lower or whatever it's called.
Oh no, I'm not trying to overwrite it. I'm trying to iterate through the Nixpkgs can be a list of items.
You can use the old value because it's in your lexical scope, and then you just set it with extend modules.
Oh, are you talking about the make transform?
That would be another way to do it, but it's not actually necessary.
Okay.
There's always.
We don't want to remove this expressive power and escape hatch.
Okay, that's all I wanted to know.
Yeah. We're also dependent on it, so we're all in the same boat.
I did want some sort of event horizon after which you can't do whatever you want, but make sure that you're never stuck on the wrong side of that.
So like, we always need to support the use cases or the necessary use cases.
Yeah.
I do want to ask something about here. What about kind of well, I guess backwards compatibility for like all of these individual attributes is a bit too much, or like having them still exist but throw a warning or something like that. Although I think that should at least be considered. Like, have you thought about that, Robert?
I've thought about it, and I think I've rejected it.
Yeah, I think it's opt-in, so you're choosing to break your consumers.
Yeah,
Uh,
I would be open to having a light version of this that, add all those things back in with a warning on it, if there's interest in that. But it is opt-in, so it's not really necessary as part of this PR. It's something that could be done, and I would be supportive of that.
Well, I'm more worried about the breaking the expectation, because Nixpkgs hasn't really there's no definition anywhere that says what is part of the API of Nixpkgs, and people might expect that yes, being able to access build inputs directly as an attribute is part of that.
Well, I think the no
though it shouldn't.
expectations cuts both ways. Something like this, it does a little breaking change, but then it also starts to clarify it. The stuff that is internal is more unstable and more internal, and the stuff that isn't internal is more stable. So it's like a kind of a fork in the road moment. But if we worry about everything is stable by default, then even for opt-ins, then we're just not going to be able to do anything. I feel it's very analogous to at the beginning of simple package paths. We were saying, oh, do we need to symlink all the old default .nixes to the new things? And then we decided that was just a step too far.
Yeah, although there the cost was just pretty large. Like here, I feel like it wouldn't be. I feel like it would be fairly easy to for a release, just keep the attributes but make them throw a warning, like keeping attributes and throwing a warning for a release. Would not be very expensive, and it would.
Yeah, I could look into that, and the way I would do it is I would make it a pre-valued variable. The default is false, I guess. If you want to really clean your attributes, maybe because it's a new package, you can set it to true. And then if you're not certain about your consumers, you can set it to warn, string warn.
What is that? Warn. Yeah.
False, true, or one.
I see. Yeah, I would like to see that, because I feel like it would be not too expensive, and if that works, then we can at least you can even include in the error message that if you depend on something like this, or if you're worried about this, this is the issue where you can complain about it, so we kind of know how many people it actually affects, or
yeah. And we'll be able to provide an explicit interface for the thing that we're trying to achieve.
An explicit interface?
That is sort of the end goal, right? We want to make clear what the interface is, and we do want to support those weird use cases that people have.
Yeah, so we can figure out the final interface better like this. Okay, yeah, but yeah, in general, this is my only concern. But other than that, it sounds like a good general change to me, and I support merging that once we know about this.
All right, great.
All right. Oh, we are just out of time. I know that, Alyssa, you also wanted to bring something up. Is it about the Rust cargo thing?
Yes, it is, and I don't have the numbers yet, so it probably makes sense to just do it next time.
Yeah, I think that sounds good. So I gave some feedback on Matrix about this change. You can look at the PR here. I'm also going to copy it in the notes here. But yeah, I would like to see some, like, there's a significant, potentially a significant size increase for this. And I would like to see some more concrete numbers about it. And once we have this, it's going to be much easier to make a decision over this. All right. But yeah, that sounds great. Feel free to mention it when that's done. And yeah, otherwise,